Hey, it's Jason Morris. Welcome to the Philly Show.
Good morning, everybody. How are you? Ruben Amaro Jr., Jim Salisbury, Todd Zolecki. We are part of the Follow Territory Network. It's the Philly Show, January 13th, 2025. Eagles victory Monday. We figure we got to mention the Eagles because that's all people are going to be talking about until they, all the way up to the Super Bowl run if they get that far. So I had to mention that. For me, it was a little more painful because I'm a good Packers fan.
Sorry, Todd.
That's all right. That's
Keep
all
your
right.
chin up, man.
Yeah, I was in a house full of Eagles fans yesterday. My 5-year-old daughter Margot was open in my face, yelling "Boo Packers, go Eagles!" So
wow.
I felt at home.
Wow.
But big win for the Eagles. They got to tighten it up on offense, I think. But got the first one out of the way. Jalen maybe knocks some rust off. There they go. They're on their way. They're on their way to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, that was the Jay Giles Band Bowl.
The Jay Giles Band.
Really? Love against Hurts.
Love Hurts.
Love Hurts. Oh my God. That'll take you back to youth, Ruben. Right?
I love it.
I remember that.
Great Boston band. Boston band.
I'm a fan. Oh, was it a Boston band? I didn't know they were from Boston.
Jay Giles. Oh yeah, from Boston. Love her.
I was a big Boston fan, by the way, back in the day, right around that same time, maybe a little earlier.
Yeah. I didn't think the Pack were very good, Todd.
No, and you know what? I was thinking about this last night. The Packers are really the only team I root for. Like, I'm a real diehard Packers fan, and it allows me to remember what fans feel. Covering the Phillies every day, I kind of, I'm inside. I try to take a step back and provide fans, some perspective on why things are happening, why things aren't happening, why you should panic, why you shouldn't panic. And as a Packers fan, I'm just like, Jordan Love ain't the guy, man. Jordan Love is not the guy. They are not going to win a Super Bowl, this guy. And I'm going, so I really want to read what all the Packers writers and people have to say today about that, because I am really down on my squad. I am really down on my squad right now. And so, over the past couple of years, people down in Jalen Hurts and the Eagles, and earlier this season, Nick Sirianni, I'm going, how do you want to fire this guy? Now I kind of go, yes, I remember the frustration, the over-the-top frustration of being a fan of a team.
I mean, I continue to marvel, just to stay on the Eagles subject.
Sure.
I continue to marvel how amazingly different the defense looks with Vic Fangio at the helm. It is amazing. It's one of the most amazing turnarounds, I think, in sports. Obviously, there's some maturity with some of the players, and Howie Roseman deserves a ton of credit about bringing in some of these folks. But what Vic Fangio has done, based on what they looked like last year to where they are this year on the defense, it's just insane. It's hard for me to even imagine. It's like literally it's almost like taking a bullpen or a rotation and flipping it completely and making it go from the worst to the best. That's a hard thing to do. And really impressive what's going on there.
If the Eagles win the Super Bowl, we'll have to have Phillies fan Vic Fangio on the show.
I mean,
it's sometime in February, right?
No doubt, man. He's old school, and I love what he brings to the table. Obviously, Hurts did not look sharp, and I'm not sure what the scheme was with Kellen Moore, and I've been pretty impressed with him for most of the year, but it looked like a different offense. Should have been better, and it was not pretty sharp for me.
Yeah. Todd, you're right. It is sometimes really nice, especially when you're in the line of work we've been in for a long time. It's just nice to be a fan and not have to worry about, oh my God, I got to write a good lead here. I got to make deadline. I mean, we always talk about it you'll bump into a Phillies fan, or a friend of yours is a Phillies fan, and the Phillies will rally for a dramatic comeback in the bottom of the ninth for 4 runs to win. And, everybody's buzzing about what a great game it was. But, you have just ripped out your insides because you have to turn around your story in 6 minutes. You know what I mean? It's agony sometimes, but it's just nice. No keyboard, maybe a big plate of wings and watch the game. I love the NFL playoffs for that reason.
Well, the interesting part about that is I typically do too, but then when I go to the tailgates and stuff, I get people pounding. What's going on with the Phillies? How come they haven't done anything? Why are they? What's going on with them? I'm like, dude, can I just enjoy this, have a beer and smoke a cigar and hang out? And people want to like start bashing the Phillies for, I'm like, dude, they're still one of the top 5 teams in baseball. Maybe
right.
If you look at, if you just look at the numbers and you look at what they've done, now I know there's a disappointment because of the playoffs and all that other stuff the last few years, but it's still one of the best teams in baseball and maybe the best rotation in all of baseball. Like, when are they going to do something? I said, do something.
They got Luzardo.
Luzardo's
game.
Luzardo's big, man.
That's a huge move. And I think that, people want to see, they don't know who Luzardo is. No one, I mean, most right. The basic fan doesn't know that doesn't, that's not Cole Hamels, it's not a left-hander that shoots out at him. But the reality of it is they have the best rotation, I think, in baseball, depth 1 to 5. It's hard for me to imagine that there's a better rotation. Maybe Arizona, they got Corbin Burns, they're pretty good. If they stay healthy, Seattle's excellent. And obviously, if LA is healthy, that's a really, really good one. But that's a big question on the health. And they have 6 or 7 guys that can roll out there. But everybody's, well, I'm worried about the Mets. Well, they have one player. They got Juan Soto. They did get Sean Manaea back. But dude, if you're going to start, comparing teams, player for player, I like the Phillies.
Yeah. Have you seen these? I'm already starting to see people make picks, for the division, and almost everyone I've seen has the Phillies number 1. And Bryce Harper seems quite confident. He's now a barista.
Yeah, I saw that. And he's a bread maker. He makes a fine loaf of bread. I understand.
I saw that as well.
Nice banana bread.
Oh, I saw the coffee he was making.
Oh no, he's
using a stand mixer the other day. Yeah. Wow. Yeah, absolutely. Well,
he'll impress me if he can make a meatloaf.
Yes,
I had an unbelievable meatloaf the other day at your place, Jimmy, over at the seniors. What was it called? The hot stove, seniors hot stove in Phoenixville.
Phoenixville Senior Center. Ruben spoke to a hot stove group. He was dazzling.
No,
wow,
dazzling.
Fantastic!
It was fun to speak to the folks. Speaking of folks, let's talk a little bit about the LA Fires, man, and how much we got to send some love out there. Talk to a lot of guys, actually texting with a bunch of guys. Greg Dobbs texted with Jimmy Rollins. They're safe. I know that Greg Dobbs had to evacuate, sent me a bunch of scary, awful pictures.
Wow.
There's so many people. I think what you were talking about, Chase Utley, Todd, that he lives right next to Rob McElhaney, right?
Yeah, I know Rob tweeted out that he had to evacuate. So hopefully I don't know what that means about homes and whatnot, but the images obviously are terrible.
It's just amazing. I mean, it looks like apocalyptic in a lot of ways. I mean, it's really awful, and our prayers to all of them. And anyway, people can support them, man. It'd be great, but I know it's an awful thing, and hopefully they can contain it soon. It's terrible.
We'll be right back.
Figuring out dinner every night with variety is not easy when you're running around. Let America's #1 meal kit, HelloFresh, help you out.
HelloFresh has over 50 recipes to choose from each week. They pre-portion the ingredients and then ship them right to your doorstep.
If you're looking to fit a specific lifestyle, HelloFresh features preferences like fit and wholesome, quick and easy, or a vegetarian option for you too.
HelloFresh helps you eat healthier and stress less about how you're getting the ingredients and ideas for that perfect home-cooked meal.
In many parts of the country, it's cold out. So skip the hassle and snuggle up next to your phone or your computer and pick out your favorite recipes. Then let HelloFresh handle the planning, the shopping, and most of the prep. Get up to 10 free meals and a free high-protein item for life at HelloFresh.com/FT10FM. 1 item per box with active subscription. Free meals applied as discount on first box. New subscribers only. Varies by plan. That's up to 10 free HelloFresh meals. Just go to HelloFresh.com/FT10FM.
Ruben, you mentioned how people asking about what the Phillies are doing this offseason. One guy they got was Max Kepler. He's going to be their left fielder. Max hopped on a Zoom on Thursday and chatted with reporters for about 10 to 15 minutes. We all either listened to the call or were on the call. Did anything jump out to you guys? I mean, for me, he seemed like somebody who really wanted to stress that I am healthy. And when I'm healthy, I think I can be very, very good. I mean, and that's, of course, what the Phillies are hoping, that he is healthy and that he is very, very good, because it's just a 1-year deal, but they don't have a lot of outfield depth. And if he performs like he performed last year, that's going to be a problem spot, because they don't really have anybody that can step in and help them out, really.
I enjoyed the call, listening to him. And what kind of struck me about it was how analytics is in everything. And it's very valuable. I know analytics takes it on the chin, but there's so much you can gain from analytics. You watch a pitcher's bullpen and all of a sudden some of his spin and some of his velo is down. Well, maybe that's an indicator of an injury.
Right.
Very, very valuable, or an indicator of decline in some way. Kepler was talking about how his exit velocities last year were coming down, and they were able to kind of dig into that data and the reasons that he was losing some exit velocity off the bat. And it was determined that he had a core injury that was addressed, abdominal core, that was addressed with surgery. So maybe a healthy player is a better player. So maybe, the surgery and getting that core injury repair will unlock something in him, because I certainly think they're going to need his bat at that bottom third of the order. That's attractive. Get some thunder down below if indeed he's going to provide thunder. So a big question is, what are they going to get out of a healthy Max Kepler? Maybe that, enhances his performance. And two, how's he going to do with the adjustment to left field? Because he's really only been a right fielder. So,
right.
Yeah, I mean, the most important thing for me, obviously, is his health. And, I go back and start thinking about guys like Raul Ibanez, when Raul was really going well with us when we had him. And I was a little bit longer of tooth, but, he had an MVP type season going on in the first part of that once his first season. And then he developed that core injury, and it really affected him for the rest of the year. And I think that more than anything else, when older players start to get breakdowns, the question is, can they come back? I mean, he had some unbelievable years. What was it, 22 and 23, I think it was, or 21 and 22, when he was a really good player. I mean, you start looking at breaking down his numbers and his OPS and his overall production. And when he is a healthy player, man, this guy is a good one. And it seemed like he was, sort of peaking in those years. And then he had a very, very difficult, obviously 2024. And I will tell you this, if you can't use the middle of your body, if you can't use your lower half, you're done as an athlete. I mean, you're really done. I mean, we used to talk about hands and feet. If your hands and your feet aren't, well, if your middle body, if your core is not working in baseball, you can literally do nothing. And so, so that's an important one. I'm just hopeful that he's able to make the adjustments. That he had some fanboy in him, though. I think when he was talking, I mean, it felt like, oh my God, I'm going to be playing with like all of these. It was interesting to listen to a guy who's played basically in 10 years in the big leagues, to listen to him and say, hey, I'd like to see how these guys go about it and how they're, I've seen this, team from afar, and I've seen it up close when we played against them. And, it's almost like he was impressed by the fact that there's a Harper, and there's a Real Muto, and there's a Turner and Schwarber. And I think that's sort of, he almost looked like kind of a fan, thinking about being able to play with him. He was nervous and excited about it, which is, I kind of like the youthful exuberance, and hopefully he does learn something from some of those guys and can fit in nicely.
He seemed to acknowledge that he is stepping into a situation where there's a real expectation to win, and not to say that you play for the Minnesota Twins, you don't expect to win, but I think it's maybe a little bit different, where maybe in the back of your mind as a Twins player, you're going, all right, if we have everybody play really, really well, maybe the front office will make a trade in July, or maybe if everything breaks right, we can get to the ALCS and win the division, get to the ALCS, and
Right.
maybe, oh man, if we prayed real hard, we could get to the World Series, where I think this team goes in going, we can win the World Series this year, so everybody needs to step up. And so he seemed to acknowledge that difference in expectation. And again, I've never set foot in the Twins clubhouse. I don't know what it was like there, but there are definitely more stars, more expectations. I went to school in Minnesota, different vibe in Minnesota, much different vibe in Minnesota than there is in Philadelphia. Believe it. So, Max Kepler comes to Philadelphia trying to fill a hole in left field. I think he recognizes that he needs to step up and deliver and produce, not only for himself and getting a new contract, but for Bryce Harper and Trey Turner and Kyle Schwarber and Nick Castellanos, JT Realmuto, and all those 45,000 fans that are going to be in the stands every single night watching him play.
Agree. He needs to be good, but let's not forget, he, in my opinion, is a complimentary player.
Right.
He's, we talk about it all the time. You need your big boys to be your big boys. And I view him as a complimentary player and potentially a very good one and an important one. I'm not diminishing his importance, but this team is going to, the guys who are going to drive this team are Wheeler, Nola, Suarez, Turner, Harper, Schwarber, Castellanos, Realmuto, Bohm, Stott, that crew. That's a crew that is more than ready to win. So.
Yeah. I totally agree with that, Jim. And the other part of that is, people were talking about, well, they need the players who make contact and not strike out so much. Well, I did look into the numbers a little bit with Max Kepler when he was going to have his best years, and generally overall, he strikes out less than the average, and he also walks more than the average, especially in the years that he had his best years. So he is one of those guys that makes a little bit more contact. And there was a question about whether he can hit against lefties. He feels confident that he will. And so I agree that he's a complimentary player, but you never know how guys are going to react in a new environment. And with that expectation, we had the Lance Parishes of the world, we had the Lance Parishes of the world. We've had, other players who've come in this situation. Of course, the pressure on this guy is not nearly as high to have that kind of impact. He is a complimentary player. And I think he needs to come in feeling that he's just do your thing. Just add on. Don't have to be a lifesaver, because he doesn't, because that's not his job. He's going to hit in the 6th or 7th or 8th hole. And I think that's the sort of the mindset that he needs to have. He's just creating some depth for a really, really solid lineup.
Yeah, it's just, I like that expression, just add on. It's like when you're playing in a scramble and you're the worst golfer. I'm not diminishing him, but when you're playing golf in a scramble with a bunch of good guys, if you can make, hit a wedge shot or make a putt, and that gets your team over the top.
Absolutely.
Amen. Straight on. I like that. I like that analogy, Jim. Bringing out our game.
This is my year. This is my year.
This is your year, buddy. You're taking it to the next level.
So Kepler talked on Thursday, and then Friday night word breaks, and this was not a surprise. Jeff Hoffman, former Phillies reliever, Jeff Hoffman signs a 3-year, $33 million deal with Toronto. They said that he is going to get an opportunity to close. We knew he wasn't going to come back, but Jeff had a real nice Phillies career. Did you have any reaction to the contract that Jeff Hoffman got from Toronto? And do you think there's still a chance that maybe the Phillies, one of these other relievers that we've kind of talked about, linger out there long enough that they can maybe snatch one up before opening day?
I was happy he got a 3-year deal. That's nice. Yeah. That's good coin.
Yeah.
I think he earned it. Did a good job here. Philadelphia should mean a lot to him. It's kind of where his career came together. I think he learned a lot from the Phillies staff, and he went out and did it himself. He deserves most of the credit. Not surprised he's moved on, because we've talked about it now throughout the winter that they just don't seem to want to do multi-year deals in the bullpen. In fact, I spoke with an agent at the winter meetings who said they just want to keep their bullpen guys to 1-year deals, and that I'm sure hurt Hoffman's chances of coming back. I wonder if they might make a run at somebody who lingers a little while longer out there in the bullpen on said 1-year deal. But let me ask you, Todd, if they sign John Doe reliever, let's say for $6 million, Where they are on the tax, that's actually a $12 million outlay, right? Or
that's more. That would be more than a $12 million outlay. That'd be like,
Wow.
that'd be, because
Okay.
at this point they're taxed 110% for every dollar spent. So, the other day I crunched the numbers and they're like at 345 overall. They're the projected payroll on Fangraphs. I think I wrote this down somewhere.
Holy moly!
Yeah, the projected payroll right now on Fangraphs is $307.5 million. It's more than $6.5 million over that fourth luxury tax. So right now, if those numbers, that projections end up being true, they're going to pay more than $48 million in tax penalties to push the total payroll commitment to more than $355.5 million.
Oh my goodness!
So
If
great point,
they sign a $5 million reliever, it's probably more like 11.
Right.
So I think we have to frame it that way in terms of, are they done? Are they not done? Would they take a shot at somebody who's still out there? I don't know, but there's more that meets just the sticker price.
Right. And also I think in those conversations, aren't they saying if it's not a Kirby Yates or, one of those types of Carlos Estevez, if he lingers on the market, if it's more that 1 year, $5 million guy, do you think John Middleton, Dave Dombrowski are going, do we really want to drop $11 million on a $5 million reliever? Yeah. How about we see what we have and then maybe reload and address the right spots in July? I mean, maybe they go that way as well. I'm sure that's part of the conversation, right?
No doubt. And if I'm sitting there in the front office and people are still saying things like the Phillies are cheap, dude, they're not. Okay. That's a ridiculous amount of money. And as I used to say as a GM, if I can't put together a contending team with this amount of money, then I'm not doing my job well. And they have. I mean, listen, they have a really, really good ball club, especially on paper. Do they need to perform? Yes, they do. But they still have a very strong team. They're not too long a tooth that you need to really worry about that too much. There's maybe a little bit of concern with JT just because he's had some drop off the last couple of years in some areas. But I do think that they have some protection with him with Marchand, because I think they're going to back him off a little bit as far as his playing time is concerned, which may make him a more productive player over 110 or 120 games instead of 130. You can't call this team cheap. And I do believe that they're probably going to hold some powder for maybe a deadline move or something like that, because we talked about this, doing this a little bit last year. But my thing is this, these guys have to get it done. These players, their money was spent already. Mm-hmm. They spent this money to make this team good for a long time. And this is part of the long time. This is part of that window. And they're hoping that other guys step forward once some of these guys drop off or are no longer contracted. And so you can't tell me that the Phillies are cheap. You can't tell me that they're not committed to winning, because they've made the outlay as far as the money is concerned. And it's up to the players to perform and to make the adjustments that are necessary during the right times and play better during those playoffs when it's necessary for them to take it to the next level.
Yeah. Again, they're projected at the second highest payroll in baseball in 2025. Only the Dodgers have committed more. So still more money to spend. You never know what the Yankees and the Mets are going to finish up. But, they spent a lot. They spent a lot of money. Ruben, you mentioned players coming up down the road. We had Jonathan Mayo on the show last Friday from MLB Pipeline. I thought that was a real fun listen. I was listening to the car running around doing errands over the weekend, and it was really good. So if you haven't checked that one out, go back and listen to Jonathan Mayo. He brings a lot of great insight on the Phillies farm system and a lot of the Phillies prospects, including the heavy hitters that might be here this year or next year or whenever. So
now, who do the Eagles play next weekend?
Ruben, do you know that question? Because as soon as the game was over, I turned it off.
Well, it's either going to be what the Vikings.
Well,
it's not going to be. Is it Commanders? A chance to be the Commanders now that the
Commanders
Vikings
or the Rams? I think they play
the Bucks.
Vikings Rams play tonight.
No, I think it's the winner of that one. Okay.
Is it the winner of that one, or is it the Commanders? Because it's a lower seed. You know what? I should know this, but I don't.
Well, as a
we are a baseball podcast. You can't.
Yeah, exactly.
That's
Give
right.
us,
We can't know everything.
cut us a break. As a Packers fan, I hate the Vikings are my Cowboys. So if there's nobody that hates the Vikings more than me. Yeah. Oh, I despise the Minnesota Vikings. I loved them when they went on the Art Museum a couple years ago and did that stupid skull chant, and then they got throttled by the Eagles in the postseason. That in the playoffs, that was a tremendous moment for me. as a lifelong Green Bay Packers fan. So we'll be back later this week with more Phillies talk. Maybe we'll answer some fan questions. If you got any, feel free to throw us a note, shoot us a note on any of our social media channels. Maybe we'll address some of those, and we'll have more to talk about. There's always ball to talk about. So we'll talk to you guys later.
Smell you later, boys.
Smell you, Jim.
The Philly Show is brought to you by the Foul Territory Network. Subscribe to The Philly Show on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts. If you like us, give us a review. Follow us on Instagram, TikTok, X, Facebook, and Threads. Find Ruben's analysis before, during, and after Phillies games on NBC Sports Philadelphia, on the Sports Radio 94 WIP Morning Show, and MLB Network. Find Jim at allphly.com. Find me at MLB.com, the Phillies Beat newsletter, and MLB Network.